we've spent some time talking about the philosophy you need to bring to the interview and to the preparation you need to do before you actually get into the interview room. But in the episodes from here, I want to put you in the interview room and take you through the most common questions which get asked and the best answers to those questions. Now there's two most common first questions. The first one's technically not a question, it's actually a direction, and that is, tell me a bit more about yourself. And the other one is the why you question. Now it never comes directly, why you? You'll hear it come in a number of different ways. What brings you here today? Why have you applied for this job? What do you believe you have to offer this job? Why should we choose you? It has different forms, but essentially it's the same question, and that question is, why you? So in this video and the next video, because these are important questions and they'll take us a little time to get through, I want to take you through the best answers to each of these two. We'll start with, tell me a bit more about yourself. I don't know you. I've never met you before. I want to like you, but I can't like you if I don't know you. So I'm going to ask you a very personal question with the idea that I can get some sort of grasp of who you are as a person rather than who you are as a worker. As an introvert who does an extrovert's job for a living, I don't like this direction. I really don't. I don't like talking personally to somebody I don't really know. But unfortunately, it's the nature of this direction, and you have to give a personal answer. So your answer should give a very quick thumb sketch of you, the person, where you're from, and what you've done. So it would run something like this. Well, as you know, I'm this age. I was born here into this family. I have two brothers and a sister. We grew up in this area here. I went to high school here. While I was at high school, I really thought my career would be this, like a lot of kids at that time. Later on, I changed. And so when I went to college, I studied this. My first job, as you can see, I very quickly gone through my family situation, and now I'm into talking about my career, my working life. My first job was here, which was very beneficial to me. I was fortunate enough to be able to learn this, and this. Later, I was promoted here, and then I was headhunted the third time into here. Very quick summary of your career. Then you need to talk about what brings you here into this room today. And I've been in my current position for this amount of time. I really enjoy it. They're a terrific group of people to work for. At the moment, I feel like I've achieved all I can in the position I'm in. When I first got there, there was so much to do, so much to do. I was absolutely enthralled and busy, working long hours. But by and large, I've sorted most of that now, and I'm finding myself more and more babysitting my job, just keeping it going, because all the hard work's been done when I first got there. Now, best use of the question, not answering it, the best use of it. The icing on the cake in this answer is to introduce something along the lines of, I have a couple of personal philosophies which I bring to my work. Very simple things passed down through my family. Simple, but I find to be very powerful. The first one is treat other people like you'd like to be treated yourself. To get respect, you have to give respect. Very simple, but very powerful. It has enabled me in all the positions I've been in, and frankly in my private life, to make very good relationships with a wide range of people based on mutual respect and trust. I like people. I like all people. The other one is you won't get out of life what you put into it. You only have one life, and this is it, so get the most out of it that you can. We're having a training course they call for a volunteer. You'll see my hand go up. Not because I particularly like volunteering, because actually I don't like that being in the focus. It's just that I know I'll get more out of this course if I volunteer. We have a social club at work. You'll find me involved in it. You're asking for volunteers to do a project, volunteers to stay back and finish something. Can somebody come in on Saturday and do this? You'll see my hand go up again, again, and again. You can rely on me. Why? Because you only get out of life what you put into it. Now, you can see that I have cherry-picked those two philosophies, adding them on at the end. Why? Because I want to use the question and not just answer it. And they're the two which will help me get this job more than any other two that I can think of. Okay, let's move on to why you. Why you? What brings you here today? Why have you applied for this job? What do you have to offer? This is the biggest question you're going to get at interview. A lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people gloss over this question because they think the real questions will ask me about my skills, my experience, what information I know. Make no mistake, this is a real question, and in fact, it is singularly the most important question you are going to get at interview. Having said that, most people don't answer it well. In fact, what they do is they answer the question rather than use it. Stock standard answer to this question. What brings you here today? Well, I've been doing this work for some time now, and I like to think I have a lot to offer in this work. I saw your advertisement. It seemed to suit my skills. I thought this is a very good organisation to work for. Working here might produce some mutual benefit. Something along those lines is the stock standard answer to that sort of question. And it's hopeless. Why is it hopeless? We know already what sells an interview. Wisdom, insight and understanding. And the problem with the stock standard answer is it has no wisdom, no insight, no understanding whatsoever. So what I want to do is I want to add the wisdom, the insight and the understanding to that answer. Now if I do that for any job at all, it will take me at least 5 minutes to answer this question. Bigger jobs, it'll take me even longer. The biggest job I ever sat in on as part of my research was a job of a CEO for an organisation paying well over $1 million a year. The man who got the job, he took nearly half an hour to answer the why you question, and can I tell you, not a word out of place in that time. What this question actually says to you is, what's your value for this job? And if you can get your value for this job out in a couple of sentences, you clearly don't have a lot of value for this job. Now, most of us don't have to talk for nearly half an hour, but we are going to talk for at least 5 minutes. And even to do that without waffling is a challenge for most of us. So I need to give you a map. I need to give you a path through this answer. Here's your guide. It's a 4-part answer. And the most important part is right at the start. The first thing we have to do is to sell their job back to them. If this job's done well, what does it look like? How will the world change? What's the benefit to the organisation if this job is done well? What's the benefit to the customers if this job is done well? It frustrates me that often people come to interview and I say to them, what's your strategy for this job? What do you mean, what's the strategy? Well, what angle are you going to use to try and get this job? Oh, I haven't got an angle. I'm just going to go and try and answer the questions. Just going along and getting the right answers is not a strategy to get a job, and it will not work. We need more than that. We need opinion. We need passion. We need desire. We need to challenge. We need to engage. All these things come from us, not from the questions asked by the interviewers. So here's the easiest place to start doing this. If this job's done well, what does it look like? I coach some people who are going for jobs as cabin managers for international air flights. So this is a big job. 400 passengers in the cabin, you're in charge of the cabin. It actually pays over $100,000 American a year. It's a big job. The people I coach were asked, what do you have to offer this job? Their answer ran along these lines, and this might be instructional to you what I'm talking about when I say sell the job back to them. They said, this is a very important job. No, more than important. This job's crucial. I can argue that this job is the most important job in the whole airline. When our passengers get off the flight, we know, our research tells us this, that in the next week or so, up to a dozen people are going to say to them, how was your flight? And they will not answer, the pilot flew the plane well. Even if the pilot did fly the plane well. They will not answer, the baggage people looked after my baggage well. They will not answer, the ticketing people were nice to deal with. Their answer is almost solely determined by how well they were treated in the cabin. Now, if they answer it was a really good flight, that brings them and the people they're talking to back onto our planes. If they say it was a really bad flight, it keeps them and the people they're talking to away from our planes. The person in charge of that answer is actually me, the cabin manager. You can see I'm going high here. I am selling the job back to them, the importance of this job. And you can do that for every single job that you're applying for, and you need to do it for the next job you go for. Let's take something easier. I'm going for a job as a waiter at a cafe. I need to sell the job back to them. Look, this is an important job. People have a choice of cafes they can go to. They don't have to come to our cafe. What makes them choose one cafe over another, particularly when so many cafes have very similar menus and very similar prices? I believe the biggest single attraction at a cafe is the service that people receive when they come to the cafe. And the person in charge of that service is me, the waiting staff. And I think people like to be recognised. I think they like you to remember their name. I think they like you to remember their order. I think they like to have a bit of ongoing banter. People want to feel familiar, want to feel comfortable, want to feel like they're coming home when they go into a cafe. And as well as the chef, the cook in the kitchen cooks, they can't deliver that experience to the customer. Only the waiting staff can, and we need to differentiate our cafe from other cafes. Again, you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to sell the job back to them. Now, that's only the first part of a 4-part answer. The second part is what the job needs. I'm not talking about myself. This is important. I'm not talking about me. I'm still talking about this job. To be able to achieve what I said it can achieve in the selling the job back to them, what skills are needed to achieve that? The person, not me, but the person who does this job needs this skill, this skill, this skill for these reasons. The trick here is to get them nodding their head to you. Yes, we agree that the person needs those skills, because what they don't realise is they're actually nodding their head at you, because the third part of the answer then is, this is what I have to offer. I have this skill, which I mentioned earlier, and I can demonstrate it in this way. I have that skill, which I can demonstrate in this way. I have that skill, which I can also demonstrate in this way. The fourth part of the answer is simply a summary, because it's a long answer, and all your long answers need summaries. So the summary runs along these lines. You ask me, what do I have to offer this job? Well, understand how important the job is and what it can achieve, and how the job is central to us being successful as an organisation. I know what it takes to be successful in this job, and I have those skills and attributes. I've only applied for this job because I believe I have a valuable contribution to make here. Bring it all together at the end. Now, if you think you can get this answer down pat off the top of your head, you're kidding yourself. It's clearly one you need to do your preparation for, to do a rehearsal for, say it out loud, feel comfortable with it. And if you don't get the gift of the question, the information we've just given in this answer, it's important, and we need to look for a place to get it out somewhere else. Most times though, you'll get the gift of the question.